All around the world, there are people like you and me. From the poorest beggar in the streets to the richest king and queen.
My name is Sara. I am 6 years old and I live in Delhi. You will be surprised that a school-going child like me knows that the world is warming up faster than ever before. The polar ice caps are vanishing, the glaciers are melting, the sea levels are rising. Mike Pandey says,
the honeybee is the flagship species, really, and it gives you 87% of the food and the fruits on this planet. But now that global warming is a reality, and if the honeybee dies, the tiger will disappear within 1 year because there will be no grass. Who will pollinate it? Man will disappear from the planet within 2 years, and nothing will remain on this planet because where will the seeds come from if there are no pollinators? Trees, the grass, everything will vanish and will become a desert in 5 years. So life on this planet is dependent on 2 insects, and it is important that we keep them secure if we want the chain of life to be intact.
I like to share, to show that I care. You are my friend, and I wanna be there fun when we share. And I'm learning now, and if you'd like, I could show you how. Climate change and global warming are a reality. Sia Babu, Professor Emeritus, Delhi University.
Global warming is there. This is particularly demonstrated that many of the small, remote Pacific Ocean islands are going to be vanished in the next, decade. In fact, a recent tidal surge swept one Pacific Ocean island nation, Kiribati. It has been shown that these small Pacific islands are most vulnerable to climate change, and there are impacts on the species, communities, and ecosystems.
Global warming and climate change strike at various levels. Himanshu Thakkar, Coordinator, SANDRUP, South Asia Network on Dams, Rivers and People.
Actually, it's experienced different ways in different sections of countries and different sections of the people within the countries. For example, South Asia is going to experience the impact of global warming more than possibly any other part of the world. The people who directly depend on natural resources, the rain-fed farmers, the fisher people, the mountain people, the coastal people, the tribal people are going to be severely affected. In India, for example, in 2015, we saw 11 states facing drought. 500 million people were affected because of the drought. Similarly, if you look at the floods, Uttarakhand faced floods in June 2013. In September 2014, Kashmir faced similar floods. In December 2015, Chennai faced. And all of these were unprecedented. So what you can see is also the frequency of unprecedented flood events are also increasing. The people who are not responsible for the calamity, their contribution to the climate change and the global warming is the least. People who are getting worst affected.
Greenhouse emissions are a part of our small world. Anandu Chakravarti, media personality.
We must appreciate that many of these activities are essential to survival as we know it today. 21% of the greenhouse emissions are caused by power plants, which again, essential. 16.8% is caused because of industrial processes. Some 14% is contributed by transportation. Agricultural byproducts production contributes to another 12.5%. Fuel retrieval and processing contributes to another 11.3%. Now, given these facts that these are of course inevitable, we can use technology and bring in new technology. But the question is enough being done on this?
Every time you sow a seed, you show a way to save the earth. Let's join to save the world from global warming.
We have options to lessen greenhouse emissions. Himanshu Thakkar.
We have options in terms of each of these activity, options which are less carbon emitting, much more environment friendly, and which are addressing the concerns of the vulnerable sections. Take for example energy production. Today solar photovoltaic costs are crashed down, and that's least contributing in terms of the global warming. And there is such a huge option, rooftop solar for example. We can go more and more for solar powered battery operated vehicles. Similarly, there is a lot of promotion of hydropower project as a solution to climate change. The fact is, they are not solutions to climate change. They are hugely impacting the environmental resources on which the people depend. Similarly, take agriculture. We can go for options where organic farming. We can go for system of rice intensification. If you look at the actual emissions in India, they are maximum from the upper class, and their per capita emission is equivalent to some of the middle European countries.
I like to share, show that I care, you are my friend. And I want to be there fun when we share. And you know that it's true, that I really like sharing with you. Yeah, I really like sharing with you. Climate change is a playing game. Ananda Chakravarti.
The haves contribute to degrading the environment, causing the maximum damage in terms of their lifestyle. And yet, when it comes to pointing fingers, the fingers are always pointed at the have-nots. This is on a global scale.
Rules at ground level are missing. Take the hills, for example. Ananda Chakravarti.
At the macro level, at the country level, at the national level, there are policies which are happening. But the moment we come below that level to, say, the state level, the district level, that's where the implementation goes for a toss. Let me bring a case in point. We all know that today our hills are actually overpopulated, over-constructed. Construction happened in water sink sites. Land was filled up where water bodies existed and buildings came up there. So once it rained, the water had nowhere to go. This is happening in the hills today. Every third day, you will probably see an advertisement talking about luxury villas in the hills and a slice of paradise. Now, the point is, who is this slice of paradise meant for? And if we all buy slices of paradise, there'll be no paradise.
Development involves people. Himanshu Thakkar.
Growth is not necessarily bad, but the greed for growth is bad. Means growth at any cost. We have still not understood in India that environment governance is such an important thing. Today, environment clearances are seen as a hindrance to the growth story. Today, Delhi needs water. What it will say? We need Renuka Dam in Himachal Pradesh. Not harvest water in Delhi. Not treat its sewage, not recycle its sewerage, not protect its water bodies, not do demand side management, but go for easy options. So, we need to really go for decentralized environment governance, democratic environment governance and decision making, which will really involve the people.
Mike Pandey says greed would be our undoing.
Our activity is sometimes driven by greed, that we think we are the super commanders of this planet. There's nothing better than man. Every action that we do today can affect people in America, in China, and what they do can affect us. So the world has become a very small village. We're beginning to understand that. And if it sinks in, then we'll be able to become real citizens, look after our own home, look after the planet, treat it like our own mother, and then only can it restore the balance. But unfortunately, the power of money or arrogance, you ignore it. You live in a big palatial house. But whether you're a poor grassroots farmer, or you're a king, or you're a high-flying playboy, you still need air to breathe. You still need food. You cannot eat diamonds.
Greed for growth has to go. For a greener world. Ananda Chakravarti.
Greed for growth, okay, whether it is infrastructure, whether it is the real estate, has to be tempered. Now, what is happening so far? I think the whole issue of environment and managing the environment is almost like what CSR activity at the corporate level used to be 20 years ago. Sustainable development would be possible only if we begin to conserve much more seriously than we have so far.
Oh my god! Oh! What happened? I had a very bad dream. Me too. Same here. We should all do something about this. Come on, let's do it.
India at the 2015 UN Climate Change Meet at Paris has promised to work for a greener world. Professor C.R. Babu.
The Paris Conference on Climate Change has tried to bridge the gap between the North and South, that the balance between emissions by sources and removal by sinks. And our Prime Minister declared at the Paris Conference that by post-2020, carbon intensity economic growth would be reduced by 33 to 35%. And then he has told clearly that by 2023, the country is expected to produce 175 gigawatt of renewable energy. And most important thing which he has mentioned is that the forest cover would be expanded to absorb 2.5 billion tons of CO2.
Carbon credits were defined at length at Paris. Shikhar Bhasin, researcher at CEEW, Council on Energy, Environment and Water.
At the Paris Agreement, about 63 different carbon markets and carbon taxation policies were taken stock of, either in operation or planned for operation. And the market expects that up until 2020, each of these carbon credits that are meant to sort of equate the polluter pays principle are going to cost between rupees 40 and rupees 105. If we want to reach our ambition of 2 degrees Celsius as the upper limit for global warming, we need to get the market rate to go up to approximately rupees 300. For this to happen, there needs to be a global movement where not everything is allowed to be priced lowly. Not all forests are allowed to have a price of $1 per tree. It needs to be more thought out. It cannot be left hanging as a golden glove that comes and solves the problem, because at the end of the day, you're still polluting.
Carbon credits will make a change. Professor C.R. Babu.
In a layman's language, if India produces more green mechanisms to offset the carbon emissions, and Bangladesh is producing emissions, the Bangladesh can purchase the carbon credits from India because India has developed green mechanisms to reduce the emissions. This carbon offset, what you call the carbon credit. Now, a carbon market has about $1 trillion USA. Plant trees. By creating more greener areas, you are creating the greater sink for CO2 and the greater the potential for getting the carbon credits.
Trees and plants are giving us rain, giving us rain, giving us rain. Let's plant more and more trees to have water for drinking. Trees and plants are source of life. They give us food, they give us food. Let's plant to save the trees, to save the forest and wildlife.
Carbon credits must be shared. Himanshu Thakkar.
Big hydropower projects are considered sustainable development, and the companies which are putting the projects are benefiting, and this is called sustainable development. So this cannot be the case. People has to be involved and they have to also benefit. For example, we have been saying that 75% of the carbon credit should go to the communities. Today 100% is going to the developer, private companies. That cannot be accepted.
The goose laid one golden egg every day. The farmer's wife was a very greedy woman.
Why not get all the eggs at once?
She thought to herself that why not get all the eggs at once? One day, she couldn't wait any longer. She told the farmer about her plan and grabbed the goose and killed her. But she found no eggs inside her.
Don't expect golden eggs. Shikhab Haseen.
One needs to understand that the second you start talking about taking your economy through a paradigm shift, there are going to be winners and there will be losers. The losers are not going to make it easy for this paradigm shift to happen.
The glaciers will melt by 2035. The sea level will rise. C.K. Varshney, Professor Emeritus, JNU.
Once the sea level rises because of the melting of the glaciers, and it is said that in next 10 years the Arctic will have no ice at all. And the situation is that most of our coastal belt, in which we have our major development, and a very good percentage of our population lives in the coastal belt, you will find that most of the coastal aquifer will become saline. And therefore there is going to be a huge ecological inward migration to the hinterland, because neither agriculture can take place with this saline land, or nor people can really make use of them for their personal use.
We are disconnected with reality. Shikhab Haseen.
Climate change is not something distant. It affects us today, it affects people around us today, and we need to take stock of that.
Hickory dickory dock, the elephant went up the clock.
Tick tock, says the clock. Professor Varshney.
As climate change is playing out, the water is becoming very serious. In fact, most of the climate change effects are through water, because either it disturbs the rainfall pattern, it disturbs the rainfall regime, it disturbs the rainfall intensity. And per capita availability of water is precipitously going down. Latin American countries, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, water is a major issue in three forms. Either it floods because we are not able to manage, or it is scarce when it is required most. The only thing that we have done is that we have invested heavily in dams, and dams have not really served the purpose. Carbon dioxide and others have received that kind of a global attention. Now it is time that has come that we should really give highest attention to issues of water.
Little big, let me in. By the hair of my chinny chin. Well, I'm huffing, I'm puffing, I'll blow your house in. Huffing, blow your house in.
Little big, I will blow your house down. Shikhab Haseen.
People understand, but you're disconnected in a way that ice caps are melting. You see it in your neighborhood. Bangladesh is sequentially submerging, and to say that, calamity is going to come if we don't address it now. But the truth is, calamity is already here.
But then, we humans are an intelligent species. Mike Pandey, wildlife filmmaker and conservationist.
We have neglected nature for too long. We have ignored it, and we've taken life on the planet for granted. Time has come to reinvent, rethink, and grow reverence for the planet that is a mother to not only human beings, but thousands of other species that live on this planet. We are an evolving species. We are still very young. Food shortages, floods, all these erratic weather patterns, they are all signs of a planet that is in distress. And all these activities have been triggered by man. That is the most unfortunate part. But the fortunate part is that we are the only intelligent species on this planet. If we can destroy, we have the mind, the brain, to also undo the damage. If we want a future for our children's children, if they are to have a tomorrow, we have to pull our socks and reinvent the world. Our values, our lifestyles have to change.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again.
The world is like Humpty Dumpty. It must not fall. Anando Chakravarti.
A greener world a more sustainable world is possible only if we begin today.
If not for yourself, do it for us kids.
Small world. Small, small world.
You just heard a feature titled Small, Small World. This feature won for All India Radio the 3rd Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union Award, jointly with China National Radio, in the category Best Radio Feature on Climate Change. Narration, Sara Mainkar. Script, Vishal Kaul. Sound editing, Dr. Sanjay Singh Verma. Production, Naveen K. Gupta. We now bring you a short interview with Naveen K. Gupta, the producer of the program Small, Small World, and Sara Mainkar, who narrated it.
Congratulations, Naveen.
Thank you, Vishal.
It's wonderful to hear your program, Small, Small World. You know, it reminded me of that wonderful Disney boat ride. And there's a song that plays along, Small World After All. But I think you took your title from another song.
Yeah, this was Huey Lewis and the News, who had produced this huge hit in 1988 called Small, Small World. And there was part 1 and part 2 in that album. And there was another song called Perfect World. And these 3 songs somehow are very philosophical in their outlook. You know, Small, Small World talks about how we are messing up this world. And yet, from a poorest beggar to a king and a queen live in this world. And if you take from this world, you have to give to this world. So I always used to think that I would make someday something on this song alone. And when I came across this notice that, you know, the 3rd ABU Awards were on disaster preparedness and climate change and global warming. And they are very tough awards in the sense that the amount of entries only from India were about 17 or 16. And then to get selected, sieved off from there, and then to go to, you know, ABU level.
I believe 13 countries finally entered.
Yeah, and 75 entries.
Right.
You know, so, and we had this climate change as topic, which is, if you take it otherwise, a lot has been preached on it also. So how do you make it novel? How do you make it go down your gullet in a palatable way? And this is where I thought that if that child tells us this bitter pill message, that look, you are messing up my world, it would be a bit emotional and a bit of a powerhouse of a statement. It somehow clicked, and I just had environmentalists and, you know, green lawyers and all kinds of people's bites, and they just clicked.
And your small, small narrator. Just a minute, let me welcome Sara Mainkar. Sara, welcome to our studios. What did you say first thing in this program of Naveen Uncles?
I am Sara. I'm 6 years old.
So Naveen, what made you choose a 6-year-old?
Well, she's 6 years old, but she's a superstar. And her father and I were one day just discussing, I'm making this feature.
Her father is a colleague who works in All India Radio.
A colleague. And I just said that, you know, Manoj, if Sara can speak words like Professor Emeritus or environmental catastrophe, global warming, and he said, well, let's try. And he took the script home, and I believe he made her speak it. And she was pretty good. She came to the studios, she narrated it twice for us. We took the best bites out of that narration. I think the intention came through that, you know, global warming and climate change are such huge catastrophes waiting to happen. And the legacy of this world now is in the hands of the kids. So this is what I wanted to convey, that a small 6-year-old child also knows what is global warming. And she is very serious about it. Countries, nations, people, we are wasting time, effort into, you know, blame games and things like, oh, you give us this much money, you this.
Carbon credits, carbon trading.
Yeah, and you have this conference, you do this conference. So the kid wants to tell us that, look, you stop doing all this and come on board and start doing something positive about it.
Because we inherit the world. Sara, there were some nursery rhymes in this program. Do you remember? What were those nursery rhymes?
That is Humpty Dumpty, Higgery-Dickory Dock, and I share.
The song I Share and I Care. And there were some stories, some fairy tales?
Yes.
Like?
Little pig, little pig.
I'll
I'll blow your house down.
Down from the Three Little Pigs. Naveen, could you tell us why you picked on these nursery rhymes and fables and what kind of an USP were these?
Well, you see, the content of the program was so gloomy and so pessimistic because all the experts were talking about, things waiting to happen. Mike Pandey was saying that if the bee goes away from this world, we have only 6 months to left. So when you are giving this heavy dosage to the listener and you have a 6-year-old child taking you by the hand through this such heavy messaging, what would be the leitmotif? What would be his symbols? It has to be something like, his moral fables like the greedy goose. You forgot the greedy goose, Sara? Remember the greedy goose, the farmer who killed the goose, who used to lay the golden egg?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had this in mind that I will integrate this into Sara's, narration. Again, a huge risk. You can again say that, it would have trivialized it, or it would have, with the right sentimentality and sensitivity, carried the message even further.
There was amazing juxtaposition. I would think the acoustic energies that came one after another, I think that clinched it in your favor. Sara, do you know that this program has won a prize?
Yes.
Did you tell your friends or your teachers about it?
Yes.
What did you say?
I say India and China get a prize.
You're absolutely right. The Best Radio Feature on Climate Change Awards had 2 winners this time. China National Radio and All India Radio. What else did you say?
I say you will be surprised that a school-going child like me knows that the world is warming up faster than ever before.
And is that a good thing or a bad thing that the world is warming up?
Bad thing.
Bad thing. Okay. Naveen, it is mandated for us as public service broadcasters to bring such subjects to air regularly. But as a private citizen, what have been your efforts, if any, to mitigate the adverse effects of climate change?
Well, we have a couple of private cab companies in Delhi. So I have stopped driving. Single person driving in one single car adds on too much to the carbon footprint. And I advise people, and I advocate rather, people should have carpools, We should have 4 to 5 people traveling in one car. This alternate system of odd number, even number was very successful. But the problem is with us. We come with hooks, license plates. We take out loopholes in the system. This is not something we should now resort to because the way the earth is warming up and the way the air is getting fouled every day, you would have 20 years at max to live in Delhi in a proper way. Kids are getting respiratory ailments. Elder people are getting all kinds of diseases. So this is just, bringing a small change in your lifestyle. That's all.
Can you walk us through the process a little bit more about the making of this program?
I wrote the script and then I had Sara, rehearse it. Then I took back that script and I gave it to the writer, Vishal Kaul. And I told him that, you write it now in your style. Similarly, when we were editing, I edited the program. And then I gave it away to another colleague of mine and said that now you edit in your style. So at every stage, I detached myself from this program so that a better quality or a better version was added to this concept. Value addition. Of course, Sara was there throughout the program. She was the USP. She was the superstar. No matter how much you could have written, no matter how much you could have planned, no matter how much sharp the editing could have been, had we not had the cooperation of the 6-year-old amazing child, we couldn't have done this.
That was an interview with Naveen K. Gupta, producer of the feature Small, Small World, along with Sara Mainkar, who narrated it. Talking to them was Boshudha Banerjee.